Hey, so people are impatient. As people, we are always looking for the fastest and easiest way of doing things, and learning English is no exception. I get lots of questions all the time about how to learn English faster. Lots of people ask how long it takes to become fluent in English, to speak English perfectly, and so on and so on. And the bad news is that there is no one magic thing that you can do to learn English super quickly. However, there are lots of small, simple, and practical things that you can do to make the process of learning English easier and faster. So the first thing you can do is find out what type of learner you are. Find out what your learning style is. And we talked about this topic in detail in the last lesson. I will link that lesson down below for you just in case you missed it. We talked all about visual learners, auditory learners, verbal learners, kinesthetic learners, social learners, solitary learners, and logical learners. So we looked at the 7 common learning styles, all right? So make sure you check out that lesson. Again, I will link it down below. And it's important to know what your learning style is, because that way you can use the most effective methods, techniques, and materials for your learning style so that you can see the most progress and learn in the best possible way for you. So first things first, determine what your learning styles are. Okay, so the second thing you can do is to determine what kind of English you actually need. You need to take a few minutes, stop and ask yourself, why am I learning English? What do I actually need English for? So the answer to this question should not be, I want to improve my English, all right? The question is, what do you actually need English for? So really think about this. Do you need English to get a job or to get a promotion? Do you need English to attend university? Do you need English to pass an exam? Do you need English to be more confident in social situations? What is the real reason, or what are the real reasons why you need English, okay? Once you know your reasons for learning English, then you can decide what type of English you actually need, all right? So you might need general English or conversational English. You might need business English. You might need English for a more specific purpose, like an exam, for instance. You might need technical English. So the type of English that you actually need and that you have to learn and you have to study will be different depending on the reason why you are studying, all right? So for example, you may or may not need to study grammar. If you are taking an English exam, or you need English for an academic reason or an academic purpose, then chances are you will need to study grammar. But if you just need English because maybe you want to travel or meet new people or make friends or socialize, you might not actually need to study grammar. So the way that we studied English as children in school is not the same way that we need to continue studying now. So it is very important to ask yourself and to really think about why you need English, and then determine what kind of English you should be studying. And that way you're not wasting your time. So this will actually speed up the process of learning if you are learning the right kind of English for you. So next, you need to decide what skills are most important for you right now at this point in time. So depending on your situation and your life and your reality, certain skills are going to be more important than others, all right? So in the last point, we talked about deciding what kind of English you need. So let's imagine you decide, okay, I need business English, all right? So that's the kind of English you need. But within business English, you have to think about, what skills do I actually need the most right now? So let's say that you have to write reports and emails a lot at work. You might need to work on the skill of writing. So the kind of English is business English, but the most important skill for you might be writing, okay? Or if you have to give presentations at work, the most important skill for you might actually be speaking, okay? Again, it depends on your situation. So there are different skills in English, and there are different types of English like we talked about. So some of the skills to think about are listening, reading, writing, speaking, pronunciation, conversation, grammar. There are many different skills inside of English. So I want you to think about which ones you need the most right now, and that will depend on, of course, you. Okay, so the next thing you can do is to set specific goals. Goal setting is very important when you are learning anything at all, including English, because your goals will help to keep you on track. They will help to keep you motivated. They will give you a direction, all right? And if you have never set goals before, I'm gonna give you a very simple formula that you can use to write down some very specific goals, all right? Here it is. I want to learn A in order to do B by this specific date, all right? So basically you have what you want to do, why you want to do it, and the timeline for doing this thing. It's also important for you to have long-term goals and shorter-term goals, things that you are going to do over the next few weeks or over the next few months, okay? So let me give you some examples of clear, specific goals. I want to learn how to write a CV in English so I can get a job overseas in the next 6 months to 1 year. Okay, this is very clear, very specific. What you want to do, how you want to do it, and how long it's going to take you. Another example, I want to learn how to communicate confidently in social situations in order to expand my professional network over the next 6 months. And one more example, I want to reach an upper intermediate level of writing in order to take my IELTS exam within the next 4 months, all right? Now, when it comes to setting goals in English, you need to be as specific and clear as you possibly can, and you also need to be realistic, all right? So for this last example, I want to reach an upper intermediate level of writing. This is a realistic goal for someone who is already around an intermediate level. This is not a realistic goal for someone who has a beginner level of English or a beginner level of writing, all right? So be realistic, be specific, and set some clear goals for yourself. I would love to hear what your goals are, both long-term and short-term. So if you are comfortable sharing some of your learning goals, please do so down below in the comments. Next, you need to track your progress. So if you are studying English with a teacher, of course, the teacher can give you feedback, keep track of your progress, tell you how you're doing, and that's great. But if you're studying on your own, it's still super important for you to learn how to keep track of your own progress. If you don't know anything about your progress, you end up feeling like you're studying and you're not really improving and nothing is happening, and you feel like you're wasting your time, and it gets very discouraging and you lose your motivation, all right? So tracking your progress is super, super important. And if you don't know how or you don't know where to start, here are a few things that you can do to help you. First of all, you can write down your goals, write down all of your goals along with a timeline. And as soon as you accomplish your goal, you can check it off, okay? When you can visually or physically see your goals being checked off or crossed out, you start to realize, okay, wow, I'm actually making progress. So let's say that you have some short-term goals, okay? Let's say that one of your short-term goals is to use 5 new idioms in conversations this week. Okay, you use 5 new idioms in conversations this week to sound more natural, and you successfully do that and you cross it off. Okay, and another short-term goal is you want to be able to speak clearly on the phone, so you want to order food on the phone by the end of the week, and you do that too and you cross it off. Okay, you start to realize, like, okay, last week I hadn't done these things, but this week I have accomplished 2 or 3 or 4 of my short-term goals, okay? And once you see this progress, it will give you the motivation to keep on going. The same goes for longer-term goals. So that's the first thing you can do. Second of all, you can look back on the progress that you've made over the last 6 months or 1 year, or even since you started learning English. You may have never done this, but I encourage you to take a few minutes and sit down and reflect on your English learning journey and look at actually how far you've come. Think about the first time you were able to start and carry a conversation, the first time you had a job interview, the first time you spoke on the phone in English, all right? So think about all of the new things you have done in English over the last 6 months or 1 year, and you will be surprised at how much you have accomplished. And if you feel like you have not accomplished that much, do not worry. It just means you need to refocus and set some more specific goals for yourself. So if you look back on the last year and you feel like, oh my God, I haven't done anything, or I've barely done anything with my English, it happens. But what's important is not to focus on what you haven't done, but just take a moment, write down some goals and some timelines, and get started on what you would like to do right away. So the next thing that you can do is to bridge the gaps in your English. Now, this is actually an idiom or an expression in English, bridge the gaps. And if you bridge the gaps, it means that you are filling in an empty space or filling in the space between two things. So the empty spaces in your English are basically like the weaker areas in your English. So for instance, imagine that you have some basic knowledge of the present perfect tense, but you know that you sometimes make mistakes with it. You're not 100% sure when to use it. So sometimes you use it, but it might be wrong, and sometimes you avoid it. Then the present perfect tense is an example of a gap in your English. This is an area that needs to be filled in, all right? So once you identify the gaps or the weaker areas in your English, these are the areas that you can work on. And this will help you to learn faster because you are learning in a very targeted way, okay? Instead of just studying random grammar points or random words or random things that you don't actually need, you should focus more on your weaker areas and learn to study those things. So you can do this by using, for instance, grammar checking tools like Grammarly. And when you are writing and you notice let's say you always make mistakes with the same tense, the present perfect, then you know, okay, you know what? The present perfect is weak. I need to study the present perfect. Next, do not translate word for word. Translating word for word is not the best for a couple of different reasons. First of all, a lot of expressions in English do not translate well, or when you translate them, they don't actually make sense, okay? So that's the first thing. Secondly, when you are reading something or listening to something or watching something and you stop to translate, you're basically interrupting your train of thought, all right? So your mind is starting to think a little bit in English, and then you see a phrase or an expression or a word and you don't know it, so you stop and you translate, and then you have to go back to whatever you were watching or reading. You've basically interrupted your brain and you end up slowing yourself down, all right? Instead, try to understand words and phrases and expressions based on the context. Just try to get the overall meaning, okay? If you really don't understand something, I encourage you to underline it or circle it or make a note of it and come back to it later. Don't interrupt your brain when it is working in English. Let it keep going, okay? Of course, there are some situations, like for instance at work, or if it's a medical emergency, some situations where you do need to understand a word right away, And of course, then you can translate. But if you are just trying to work on your English, let's say you are reading an article, or you're reading a blog, or you're reading a story or a book or a social media post, and there's something that you don't understand, just keep reading and try to understand it, okay? You can always look it up later if you really, really need to, but let your brain think in English and don't interrupt it if possible. And finally, do not be so critical of yourself. Sometimes we don't make as much progress as we would like, or we compare ourselves to other people and we think, how is this guy learning faster than me? Or how is this woman doing better than me? Or why am I learning so slowly? However, when you constantly criticize yourself, it can be very harmful. There is power in the words that you say about yourself. So if you are constantly saying things like, my English is so bad, I cannot do this, I don't understand, unfortunately, this is not making the learning process any easier or any faster. It's actually slowing down your progress, and it is putting you into the wrong mindset. I know that it's not always easy if you are not seeing the results that you want to be seeing and you're working really hard. I absolutely understand that it can be very difficult. However, if you are constantly criticizing yourself, all you're doing is slowing yourself down, discouraging yourself, and making the learning process harder, okay? So instead, learn to be proud of the progress you have made, which you can do if you are tracking your progress. Be proud of the progress that you have made, be proud of your accomplishments, and celebrate how well you are doing, even if it seems like your progress is little. You need to learn to celebrate your accomplishments, celebrate your achievements, be proud of yourself when you reach your goals. And this might not be something that you're used to. This might not be a practice that you have ever done, but trust me, if you start to implement it, if you start to be proud of the progress you're making and be proud of yourself, it's a very powerful thing, and it will help you to learn English faster, and it will make the entire process easier for you. So there you have it, 8 things you can do to make the process of learning English easier and faster. If you have any questions on this topic, please do let me know. As well, make sure to grab your free ebook, English Conversations Made Simple. Now, I've written this ebook to help you improve your English conversation skills. You can get your copy by clicking the link just below this video. As always, thank you so much for watching and for learning with me, and I will see you very soon in the next lesson.